Happy Halloween and welcome to the Spoiler Alert podcast, people. Today, myself, Nate, and Dakota, my co-host, are going to be reviewing John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. So the opening credits for Halloween, there's the music that is always
Carpenter.
very recognizable with Halloween, and Carpenter does it himself.
Yep.
Which is pretty impressive. I'm not sure how many movies he's done it. I know that
Assault on Precinct 13, Escape from New York.
I know the Thing was Ennio Morricone.
Yeah. It's like a really simple theme in that one, but it's scary as shit. Dun, dun.
Mm-hmm.
So it sticks in my mind. So
yeah, it's like the Halloween theme is just super simple. It's probably like I'm not a great musical mind, but like it appears to be like 3 notes.
It is probably pretty simple, but it's good. I mean, I'd say it's up there with like, I'm trying to think, some of the more iconic themes like Tubular Bells from The Exorcist, Jaws, when you think horror themes, Halloween's probably somewhere in there, maybe not at the very top.
It's at least like in a conversation, you know what I mean? Like it might not, like if you're making a list, it might not rank super high, but it's in a conversation.
Yeah, I could see it making the top 10. It's just as far as being iconic. I mean,
memorable, recognizable.
Yeah, Psycho. It'd be enough. I mean, like those. Yeah, top 5, top 10. I think
we kind of have a jack-o'-lantern like on the side of the frame as we're getting the credits in the main like 3/4 of the frame, and we slowly just push into a jack-o'-lantern's eye. And then we get a location and date that says Haddonfield, Illinois, 1963. It's all a one shot. It's all like a long take. Yeah. And for long takes, like it's definitely become popular among like I don't want to say Oscar Beatty movies because I like a lot of these movies, but like
and I love the one take, even if it is showy. But yeah, it has become a lot more commonplace.
It really kind of came back with Gravity. And
Children of Men before it, I would say, was the first
really one. For sure. But it got hot again like in the 2010s.
Yeah.
With like Gravity and like that one episode of True Detective.
Well, I mean, Gravity was the same director of Children of Men, so that's probably why.
Mm-hmm.
But
there's a
I guess it was. I mean, they're not real one takes. He's using digital stuff there, but the illusion was there. Atonement had one. Russian Ark though was a whole movie that did a one take, so like without cutting anywhere in there, like so that was madness. It went for like I think 2 hours, 2.5, like
1917. I don't know if you got around to seeing that one.
Yeah, I saw that in theaters. That was, I know it's not obviously all one take, again they're digitally, but yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and there are like scenes too where like if you go into all black, like that's when you can tell, okay, someone's definitely making a cut here.
Yeah, you can tell. I think once you become aware of the gimmick, you keep an eye out for. I think there was another where he jumps into the river. I think something around there.
It's kind of been used a lot lately.
But at this time, I mean, it's really novel. And then on top of that, the point of view, the first person perspective is just, I mean, it's still really cool.
Practically undone at that point. Yeah, the POV scene just does like a really good job of putting you in a character that you're uncomfortable with, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's like you're scared for the murderer, like you don't want to get caught. It's like, oh shit, she sees you, shut her up, so like, I mean, and then you're like, wow, this is, I mean, which is what they were going for, like and it does that extremely well, so that it's a wildly uncomfortable movie because it literally puts you in the shoes of the killer.
And in this case, we're a young child, we're a young boy. Who is spying on his sister, who's like getting it on with her boyfriend. This would probably
be the start of that trope, the horny teenagers getting it, and so
and like the virgin being the survivor.
Yeah, it's almost ridiculous. Like everybody, they're rabbits on Halloween, I guess. So
So like in this specific scene's case, we don't actually see too much of a sex scene, but we see
must have lasted like 2 whole seconds. I mean, this guy's like,
there is a lot of short sex scenes in this movie, like a lot of like 2 pumps and we're done.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, this dude's a 2-pump chump. I don't even know how he had time to, like, he's put his shirt back on. Like, how'd you even have time to get it? Like, it's all in 20 seconds.
So boyfriend leaves, the character we're in the POV of is Michael Myers, and he walks up the steps and sees his sister naked aside from some panties. She's like fixing her hair. And
first tip off to that, it's a kid really, is I've been seeing his hand extended, and then you see it's a little kid's hand, which is, you know.
And actually I think the first time we see it is like he opens a door, and then the next time we see it is he just opens up a drawer and grabs a huge fucking knife.
He was trying to figure out the height stuff. It doesn't always seem quite right. He seems maybe a little tall.
It almost looks like an animatronic, like arm extend, like, you know, one of those things where you're at like a grocery, where if you work at a grocery store, you have like one of those extended arm things.
Yeah, no, I have one of those here because there's stuff always falls behind the stove, so I use that to grab
it kind of looks like one of those in some scenes, but whatever, I give him a pass. But like, it's just, you know, like, and the sound design in this movie is very interesting, because like, I don't know, there's just the sound design around when they pick up the knife and everything is just very noticeable. So Michael Myers stabs his sister to death, walks back out, and he's wearing a clown mask at this point, because that's when he went to Halloween as a clown, and walks outside, and the parents pull up and pull off his mask, and then we see it's a kid. We pan out. That's when like the first big cut happens, is when they pull off the mask, and then the prologue ends. And going in a little more about like the kind of like the sex trope, and like how, like, you know, it seems like the teens that have sex get killed in horror movies. I think a lot of that is always rooted partially of Psycho too, is like there's so much like horror built around sex, like horror films built around sex, because I think like it's a relatable anxiety that people have, you know, fear of intimacy, fear of rejection, fear of, you know what I mean, like not fitting in, like
that's what I was thinking,
like Lori.
I'm trying to think why it's so sexually oriented, like this one, because like when you stop, it works in the moment when you stop and think about it. Like everybody's getting groovy on Halloween. It's literally Lori that's the exception. So I think as it went on, it makes, like, I think you know, with Friday the 13th and all that, I think really became, there's pretty people and teens are kind of annoying, and so people are going to enjoy watching them die, but they also, you know, you get to look at pretty people can, like, it just seemed like a winning recipe. Like it's basically indulge every base, you know, gore, sex, you know. I mean, I do think there are a lot of horror movies that do blend it in probably a more sophisticated way, psychosexual thrillers and stuff, but I'm not sure if there's any meaning in Halloween.
But yeah, I'm sure like a lot of movies definitely just use sex as like a purpose, you know, entertainment. With some of the other movies, like you mentioned, like Psycho, Halloween, Silence of the Lambs, kind of, at least in its own way, uses the uncomfortability of sex or like misunderstood sex, things like that, to kind of get people at like a primal level, you know what I mean? And then you have them at the logical level as well, with like a good story built in there. I definitely think that's in this movie, because so much of this movie is about that.
Yeah, there is something creepy about Michael, like just walking in on his naked sister. You can see the clear inspiration from Psycho. I mean, he's got plenty of sexual issues in that. So, I mean, I don't think it ever brings them out fully, this one, but I mean, there probably is something more there than in, say, Friday the 13th, where I really just don't think that's terribly thought out. It's just people like to watch teens get it on, but also get killed because they're annoying, and you know, it's like, so like it just, so gore and tits. And I don't think Friday I mean, even simple things like the mask in Halloween at least has a purpose, you know, and in Friday the 13th, I think it was just clearly imitation, you know. Here in Halloween, you know, he's wearing the mask because he's reliving that night. I mean, he's trying to relive his initial kill, you know. For
like Michael Myers' psychology is like kind of rooted in like not understanding how to rationalize sex, because like in a weird, like maybe Freudian way, he has this knife, which is kind of like a dick, like penetrating.
And,
He's not logically thinking like, oh, this is how you fuck. It's like almost right, but it's like almost like a psychological. It's like a psychological fucking key. Doesn't understand how to fuck, so he has this knife to do it for him.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it. I'm like, I mean, because like everybody in this movie is just getting groovy, and I didn't think like maybe he's killing them because of that, or he's just killing them because they're there to kill. I mean,
yeah. So everyone's just getting on. This is almost could have been a good Valentine's Day opportunity. Do Halloween on Valentine's Day. And then we cut to Smith's Grove, 1978, October 30th. And Smith's Grove is like a town where there's a big mental hospital, like hospital for the criminally insane or whatever, wherever he ended up getting sent to.
Yeah.
And there's a doctor and a nurse driving through the rain at night, talking about how they had to transport Myers to a court. They pull up into the institution, and this part's really creepy. Is there's just like people wandering around
in all that darkness and rain, and so they're just shambling around. Yeah, it's really creepy, almost zombie like.
They start to get to the gate to make sure that that's all sealed up, to make sure that that's sealed up or whatever, or to open the gate.
Well, Dr. Loomis, what was it? He goes up to the gate and leaves the nurse behind. And then that's when she gets attacked.
Yep, she gets attacked by a patient on the roof. He's like punching holes into the windows. She's terrified. She ends up getting out. He climbs in, drives off, and blasts through the gate.
Yeah, and then Loomis is like, the evil, it's escape. I mean, so he sounds fucking crazy. And then I think he just like leaves her there in the ditch with all these criminally insane people walking around, which doesn't seem like a great idea, but whatever.
We flash back to Haddonfield, 1978, the morning of Halloween. Lori is walking to school and also walking by the Myers house to leave a key because her father's like a real estate agent or something, and her father's like trying to sell that place somehow.
Nobody in all this time.
And that place is just rotted, like
boarded up. Yeah, it looks like shed. So I mean,
good luck, I guess. But we see like that he's there, like that Michael Myers is there, and we see like. But yeah, she walks off singing to like down the sidewalk, and he just steps in front of the camera and watches her walk away, like the first like woman that he's like taken eyes to.
Yeah, and she's singing like some love song or something, like just the two of us. I wish or some crap. Like so. And
at this point, he's wearing like this jumpsuit. So we kind of wonder how he gets that. That's answered in a little bit yet. Because like he just had like these white pajamas on before. So like he looked like an insane person. So he had to change his clothes. He has like a car that was the nurse and Loomis's car. Right. So he's rolling around in that. He actually ends up following too the little kid the little brother, because little brother is getting picked on by these bullies, and they're like, the boogeyman.
And it's specifically the boogeyman is supposed to be Michael Myers. Like it's become an urban myth, suburban myth, whatever. I mean, here, like that killing from 15 years ago, the kid that killed us. So, they talk about it, and that becomes relevant, I think, later in the film where they go to the house themselves, on a dare. But yeah, they're saying the boogeyman is going to get you, and he's got his pumpkin there.
And I think one of the bullies actually runs into Michael Myers, and Myers like scares him. I don't know if Myers is wearing the mask at that point, because that would be creepy.
His hair, but he could still be wearing the mask because I think it's open in the back, isn't it? So yeah,
because that would raise a lot of questions if I were like a teacher walking around. I'm like, oh wait, that janitor's got a mask on, like a fucking psycho. Well, either way,
it is technically Halloween, but not Halloween night, so it might still be a little weird.
Either way, it works with the movie. I think he ends up getting back in his car or something like that, and then tracking the brother for like at least like half a block. Dr. Loomis tries to warn the people in the hospital, like what the fuck is going on, like you let the evil loose, like I've been having like therapy sessions with this guy for 10 fucking years, and I've gone insane from just listening to him.
Yeah, he sounds like a nutter himself. And then it's also creepy because it's like the inversion. Usually it's the cop that's like, I can't believe they're letting that scum loose, but it's actually the doctor that's been charged with, like, yeah. I mean, so it just makes it creepy that the doctor's like, he should never, ever be let loose. He's evil incarnate, he gives like this big speech, like from fucking Jaws, about how like he's got the blackest eyes. It's like the Indianapolis speech. If you ever seen a shark's eyes go black, it's like that, So yeah, just he is evil incarnate, which sounds ridiculous too, because we're talking about a kid at the time that he's charged with looking after him. So I guess The Omen had just come out a couple of years before this, the Richard Donner movie, and but I mean,
and most people would say if a kid even did a murder like that, it's like, oh, they didn't understand what they were doing or whatever. But it's nope, this guy is not a sympathetic character. Nothing redeemable about him. He is evil. So it's just okay to hate him. And they pull up on a crashed like car that was like a garage mechanic car. Loomis is there on the phone talking to people about it. And that was how he got the jumpsuit, because it's obviously like a car mechanic's jumpsuit. And I would imagine that's also how Myers got gas, because it's 150 miles from the institution to Haddonfield is what Loomis mentions. So he would have to go to gas at some point with no money. They don't show that scene, but that's how that scene would play out, is like he probably like either knew how to pump his gas or forced the mechanic to pump his gas, and then ended up killing the mechanic.
Well, and then it's said that obviously because the movie's actually, some of the acting isn't great, some of the dialogue can be a little cheesy, but it's smarter than it does think about those things. It says that like obviously he's been in here since he's a kid, so he doesn't know how to drive. Somehow he learned, which is puzzling, because because I think the cop says, well, he doesn't know how to drive, he can't get far. He's like, well, he's doing pretty good last night, where he hijacked the bloody car. So we don't know how he managed to do it, but yeah, and gas would be a consideration. I think I missed that. So it's cool that they factor it in.
Yeah, it would almost be a cool scene to actually see, but like maybe it does take away from like the time we need like to establish Laurie as a character.
Well, Loomis seems convinced he's going to go back to his hometown, which other people, he's trying to convince everybody of that because they're like, it's too far. He's not going to make that distance, and Loomis is sure that he will. So
then we cut from that garage mechanic scene, and Laurie and her friends are walking down the street after school, talking about boys, talking about who they're going to take out, who they're hanging out with tonight. Because everyone wants to is getting some tonight on Halloween. Good on them. But like this like car comes by, and it kind of looks to them like a car of a guy that they know, jokingly like holler at him, and it just stops super creepy because it's like the audience knows that it's a fucking murderer, but they don't.
But even at that point, they're kind of freaked out,
they're a little freaked out too, because that's like not something that whoever they were mistaking it for would probably have done. Like it's just like sit there like all creepy. Myers starts like hiding in plain sight, basically, like
behind the hedge,
like
or whatever.
He's behind like this hedge, and we just see him in a mask behind a hedge, and it's
he's in the middle of the sidewalk, and then he moves behind the hedge.
Yeah, like her and her friend Annie see him just kind of like in broad daylight. And by the way, at this point, he's wearing a mask, which you probably know, Dakota, but I'll explain to anyone else that mask is actually directly based off of William Shatner's character in Star Trek. They modified it a little bit. I'm still not sure if they ended up paying Shatner for the likeness. Probably not. He probably could ask for that. Maybe he had some settlement. Annie like jumps behind the bush to see who's there, kind of pulling Lori's leg, saying like, oh, it's this guy, he's asking you out, but he had like disappeared at that point. And it becomes obvious at this point, based on their conversation, that Lori never goes out, most likely like a high school virgin. She's always stuck babysitting because she's got a little brother, and she babysits her friend's little sister a lot. She just never really gets a chance to like be on her own. And they were talking about like a guy that she liked before they get in the car to start smoking the weed. She grabs something from her house and from her room, and she looks down through the window, and by like the clothesline, just like in plain sight, which is almost creepier than like a jump scare or anything like that.
Doing broad daylight scares is really hard, and this would be, you know, an early example of that. So
it's just like Michael Myers just standing by the clothesline, staring up at her, and then she looks away real quick, looks back, and he's gone. And then she hops in the car with Annie, and they start smoking the weed, and then that's when they really start talking about boys and stuff. And
Annie's dad is a cop. Earlier, Lori, there's a jump scare where she bumps into Annie's dad, right? Who's investigating the house, but he is the only cop in the town, basically. Like, we don't see, they didn't have money for anybody else, I guess.
Also, Lori smoking weed is kind of, it's not like she's totally adverse to, maybe partying or hanging out.
Yeah, she's not really like judgmental of any of her friends or anything, because they're always like, she's just always stuck watching. You can tell the friend does this all the time, dumps a little sister on her to babysit. And so, I mean, it's all stuff that's going on around her, but she just doesn't partake or whatever. She's committed to the babysitting thing or whatever, right? For whatever reason.
It's just the whole like social thing, and like not going out a lot, like you said, mostly down to like the combination of her being busy and maybe just like not that like self-confident, which is like another super common high school fear that people have. It's like also just like effective for getting the subconscious kind of scare in, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you just kind of project your own thing, your own anxiety. I mean, it's nebulous enough where,
her dad's like a cop, like you mentioned, and there's police next to this hardware store that got broken into, where it's like, oh yeah, they stole some knives, damn kids.
Well, and a mask, some rope, I can't remember what else, but so
the doctor and the cop start investigating the house. I think they find a dead dog.
Off screen, but they don't. Did he say he got like hungry or something? I'm not sure if I understood that scene. Is like the implication that Michael Myers ate the fucking dog, like, or did he just torture it? Or
I honestly,
the cop says like, this, no man would have done this, and Loomis is like, he is no man. Like you get really that sort of.
Well, he did something, and I think it very awful. And I think it's related to a dog.
And he does awful things to a dog later. So. Or a skunk,
so I'm confused, but that's okay. I actually like Halloween's jump scares, where on lesser movies, especially in like this last decade of horror, all a movie can provide sometimes is jump scare.
A lot of conversations in video games and movies like that, jump scares are, like, obviously psychological horror is more sophisticated and it's hard. I mean, but I don't think jump scares are an inherent negative. I think a lot of people
not right. I mean, I think some people lean on it too much.
Yeah, that's the only thing. But it's not like it's an inherent negative. Jaws with the shark coming out of the fucking water. I mean, those are jump scares. And they're great. I mean, it's like they're not an inherent negative. So, but
it's the doctor and the cop gave a reason why not to alert more people.
The whole idea was that people are going to be calling in nonstop saying that they've seen him, and he wanted all the men concentrated on that area, which, so maybe that scene would have worked better if we saw any other cops, but it's just the one cop. So it's like, no, everybody needs to be on this street, but it's literally the one cop.
I mean, really, the doctor did most of the copping in this movie.
Yeah, which is basically, he's just hiding behind the hedge. I think the same hedge that Michael Myers was, like, so I'm like, anywhere in there he could have gotten made. He's wearing like the detective trench coat and everything. I'm like, you'd be a pretty bad PI because you're just standing next to a hedge. Like, that's not very concealed. So that's the plan. He's gonna stake it out. Oh yeah, the other thing I thought was weird is that the cops, like, because Loomis is jumpy as hell with the gun. Like, he pulls a gun and the cop's like, well, whoa, I mean, and he's like, oh, I have a license, it's okay. So he decides to leave Loomis at this place with a gun. I mean, that just seems like you're asking for some kind of violent altercation to happen while you go and do, I don't know what the cop's going off to do, talk to other cops, I guess, for the whole movie or something about not putting it on the airwaves, I think. So
yeah. The cop isn't really doing his job and his daughter dies because of it.
Yeah.
Laurie is watching movies and eating popcorn with her little brother, babysitting. Her brother asks, like, what's the boogeyman? And
he's never heard of the boogeyman,
he's connecting those two.
Yeah, so I think
well, I think the conversation kind of gets cut off because Annie calls Laurie and says that she took the initiative and told the boy that Laurie said that she was kind of into, that, like, Laurie's into him, and then he kind of got excited.
I think you need to have that, like a character that, there's hope, like she's going to meet a boy and, whatever. And
maybe Halloween night ends up where everybody is fucking, including Laurie, and no one dies.
Well, that's how the movie, it's just a porno after this point, and Michael Myers finds a healthy outlet for his sexual, it's masturbation.
The end. No, he's actually, and this is nighttime at this point, it's dark. He's looking inside their house while she's on this phone call, and Annie's dog starts barking, and he just,
it's kind of like the scene in Terminator 2, so
kills the dog, just and then we cut back to the movie night with Laurie and her brother, and it's Howard Hawks's The Thing. So the original The Thing. It's just very cool that The Thing happens, because in years, like 5 years later, he makes The Thing. While they're watching that movie, Annie does the laundry, and we're pretty much certain at that point that, like, Myers is going to kill her while doing the laundry, but it's kind of a fake out because just barely the little sister comes and kind of ruins that.
Well, it's not that you get the sense he wouldn't kill kids. I mean, I guess it's not terribly important, but she locks herself in and then she tries to climb out through the window and gets stuck. And the sister's watching TV, and it's the perfect opportunity for him to just kill her in every which way. But it doesn't actually end up happening that way. And I think the cop dad calls and says, just, I don't know, tell your sister hi or something. So
maybe just checking in, because like he's like, oh yeah, there's a murder on the loose. Oh, forgot about that.
Is that what that's even about? I thought he was just like, yeah, I still exist. I'm still, doing things, talking.
Cop is a little useless in this film.
You didn't think about it until we started talking about, like, he just disappears as far as I remember, like, for the rest of the movie. So
after being saved by her little sister in that way, Annie takes her little sister over to Laurie and drops her off. Because she's gonna go bang.
Her boyfriend calls right after she's rescued. He's, you get this really cheesy dialogue. Yeah, anyway.
So she drops off her sister, walks over to her car. She's singing a song with Paul in the title. It's a interesting thing because you see the fog out on the inside, and she's like confused about it and like a little spooked. And then all of a sudden he's behind her, strangles her, and then I think gets one stab in. And
he slashes, I think, her carotid artery, and
Mhm.
It's and then she ends up on the horn of the car. But so something I noticed is he starts moving bodies, so he's at least as pure evil and homicidal as he is. He's at least intelligent enough to not let her sit on the horn of the car, and he removes
Yeah,
another body
and
later
he
on.
hides them in cabinets.
Yeah, so I mean,
So she's killed in the car, and the little brother, like you just mentioned, actually witnesses him carrying Annie into the house. And the little brother at that point is freaking the fuck out. The cop visits Dr. Loomis by the bush, and he's like,
yeah, okay, so he does
I'm
reappear.
starting not to believe you. Maybe he's not even gonna be here.
Right.
Which again, the cop's just useless. That's barely even worth mentioning. But cop's useless.
No, I blanked on it. So yeah, I mean but at least they keep him around.
Yes, they keep him established at least a little bit here. And then a couple that are, I think the woman's name is Linda, is what I got to, but like these are like base almost totally new characters, I think.
Well, she appeared in that first scene with the drive-by, I think.
With the drive-by, she was the other one for that. Yeah, so I think her name is Linda, and I don't know her boyfriend's name. Don't remember it, but
sort of this dorky looking dude. So
they both go into Annie's house thinking that Annie's going to be there or whatever.
And they're both pretty drunk, I think. Yeah, I think that was the other thing. So like, there's beer cans spilling out of the truck or whatever.
Yeah.
So
and that's when Lori looks out the window and she's like, "Oh, everyone's fucking tonight," and she gets a phone call from Annie's by Linda saying that like, "Hey, Annie's not here, blah 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 blah," and then Lori's like, "Yeah, it's because she went over to her boyfriend's," and she's like, I'm babysitting her sister now," and then they're like, "Oh, so the sister's not gonna come in today, great," and then they go off to start fucking.
As you do. I mean, you already just probably in Annie's parents' bed. The cop is off doing important things, so he's not going to be back presumably. So yes, they're getting it on in Annie's home. 2 seconds, and he's like he's just
give me a beer.
Yeah.
and then she's like, "No, you give me a beer."
Yeah, I like the dialogue. It is, again, it's amusing, so I think it's almost deliberate.
So he goes down to get a beer, gets killed by Myers, pinned to like strangled and hoisted up, and then stabbed and pinned to the wall with the knife, which is a pretty cool image.
Yeah, and it's probably the first example, because I know this is something that comes up a lot about like Michael Myers almost being a supernatural being, and I don't know if Halloween 2 ever explains that, or if, I'm sure the later ones do. I don't know what the explanation is. I think they do address it, but that would be the first indication, because I mean, he stabs just a kitchen knife all the way through, manages to prop the guy up. There are a few other examples, like just superhuman strength, and like he gets shot like 50, well, I'm getting ahead, but he gets shot like 50 times, stabbed 50 times, keeps coming back. So later movies try to retroactively explain that it's like he's evil itself or something. I don't know, but
I like the simplicity of the first one. So then Myers wears a ghost sheet and puts on the glasses, kind of pretending to be him, to be the boyfriend. Yeah, and she kind of like believes it for a minute, but then he starts being a little weird.
Well, she makes a phone call to Lori. I mean, she's just ignoring him at this point.
She makes a phone call to Lori, and then that's when Myers starts strangling her with the phone cord. So Linda's getting strangled. Sounds like sex to Lori, so she's kind of like, just what a sick joke. And
yeah, that's a scene I didn't understand, like, because as you do, like, God, you guys are fucking perverts. Like, I mean, like, what the fuck is this,
Just
but
rubbing
but then she seems worried, so
right.
But she ends up going over there anyway. I guess she's a good friend. I mean, I don't think I would.
Enough that she goes over there anyway, and she goes up to the bedroom, and Loomis had come, like, one of the first things he did when he was in town is check the gravestone to Michael Myers' sister, and that gravestone was removed. So we just see like an empty thing.
That was the other supernatural story.
Flashback to what we were just talking about.
Right.
Lori climbs up the stairs, opens up the bedroom door, and then on the bed is a dead Annie. And then right above her at the head of the bed is the gravestone of Michael Myers' sister. And Lori's freaked out about that, backs into a closet. There's a dead guy, jump scare, flops down and swings down. That's a really good jump scare. And then she gets scared of that, falls into another closet where there's where there's like Linda dead. And then I think like the other guy that was dead too. So basically she's like backing into all of the dead bodies that he created.
All her friends, I mean, too, which is kind of fucked up. So
I don't know. I was kind of debating like what I thought about Jamie Lee Curtis's performance, because this is one of her first. It was introducing Jamie.
Yeah, it says introduce, so I think it's her first.
So yeah, usually when like a film says introducing, it's their first, if not they're one of their first. For a first-time actor, I think she does a pretty damn good job.
She's probably one of the better. Because a lot of it's pretty uneven. I mean,
like, it is a little uneven. Like some of the, like I think like her acting at the very, very end is at its strongest.
I think she's always good enough. It's kind of the like Annie, I hate to say, is just kind of the I don't know, Evil Dead levels of act. I mean, you see a lot of that with. I mean, it's not. I
do like, for instance, though, like because we were just talking about it. I do like Shelley Duvall. I honestly do like better in The Shining than Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. That's just a personal thing for me. Being terrified over and over and over can be difficult to do.
Well, that's what I was saying about Shelley Duvall. Like, I thought,
you know what I mean?
I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, fear is so debilitating. So, I mean, I guess in there, she has this maternal drive. So it's kind of there are other elements. Because, I mean, I think there are just some things that are so heart attack inducing that it's kind of almost hard to believe the character would even do anything but just freeze up and die, So giving them a drive or motivation, I guess, is a good way around that.
And here, her drive is really getting those kids safe. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is how like you just barely see Michael Myers' face, just barely through those shadows, and then he tries to lunge at her with a knife, but then she falls down the stairs.
Well, gets her. I think he gets her in the arm somehow, but
she flashes like her shirt. For sure.
Yeah, she falls over I don't know how she's not dead. She looked like she's. But
she
whatever.
Definitely fucked up her leg because she's limping when she gets out. Which I'm starting to think, after having watched The Shining too, maybe like a limp in like the final chase scene is like a little more scary for if you're the victim, and a little more intimidating if you're the villain.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because
it's just like a weird way of walking.
It's and it became a total trope. I mean, obviously, like Friday the 13th, all of those, end with the chase and the girl. Well, or I mean, not even end. I mean, it happens. They're tripping and they're falling and so that whole thing. They sprain their ankle and it became. But this is an earlier example. So again, like a lot of the things that became tropes and. And again, I think we talked about in one of our videos about like the 90s almost becoming self-parodying and self-referential, and that with the Scream and whatever. At one time they were really original, and having spent a lot of time away from these kinds of movies, like now, I mean, Halloween feels fresh if you spend time away if you watch Halloween and then 20 more Halloween movies or however many there are, and then Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and all, like it, but on its own in isolation after a number of years, like it does work. I see what was really appealing about it. So
she limps over to the neighbors and is just screaming for help, like bloody murder.
Yeah.
And since it's Halloween or whatever, they don't believe her and then just shut off their lights and leave.
Right.
Kind of shitty neighbors, even for being Halloween and worrying about like pranksters.
yeah, I mean, she's screaming bloody murder, like you said. I mean, I might pay some attention, but yeah.
Yeah.
But good acting was, I think the point with that was, I mean, when she's banging on those doors, that was, I think, a good piece of acting, you know, like
For
I was
sure.
convinced, so.
For sure. She gets back into her house. She's hiding behind a couch, turns off the lights, tells the kids to hide. She ends up stabbing Michael Myers in the neck with a sewing needle, a pretty long one. Like, it was substantial. Like, she thought she killed him. She goes
Which
back.
he probably should have, because he pulls it out too. I mean, so he survives that.
Yep. She goes back up to the kids and like tell them like, I don't think he's gonna hurt us anymore. He's the boogeyman's not around anymore. And then like little brother's like, but you can't kill the boogeyman.
Right.
And then that's just when we see Michael Myers coming up the stairs. She shoves the kids in like the bathroom of the master bedroom, and then she goes over to the closet. The closet's like the famous, I think, like the most famous scene where like he's hacking his way through the closet door, breaking shit apart, and just in time she's able to get a coat hanger, undo the wire, and then poke him in the eye and straight up stab him in the eye, and stuns him enough to drop his knife, and then she gets a good stab into his gut.
I think she tells the kids to just run like hell, find a cop,
she says to the kids to go get help, go to the neighbors. She has her back turned to him, and then another spooky as fuck scene is him just sitting up like,
and he's out of focus too, so it's like he's kind of blurry. It's just, and there's already, it's dark, and it's just a creepy image. So
and then he starts strangling her, and she fights back and rips off his mask briefly. So that's always, I'm not sure how many times in the other movies his mask actually gets ripped off.
I totally forgot about that scene, so I was really surprised by it actually, because I forgot that we ever even saw his face. Like, I mean, so but we do, and it's kind of, again, it's really quick. There's a lot of shadow, so, and there's something that looks kind of weird about it, kind of like Texas Chainsaw or Hills, like sort of, I don't know, malformed.
Kind of like Dead Eyes. Yeah, he pulls it back on, and then just as that happens, the doctor comes in because he's been staking out the other place.
He saw the kids run out of the house screaming.
Right, he saw the kids screaming. He gets like at least 4 or 5 shots into Michael Myers, shoots him off the balcony, and looks like he's dead. Doctor checks on Lori really quick and then looks back. Michael Myers is gone, and we get like the most like crescendo of the score of the movie's score in the movie, and like we hear like in the score and like, in the background is the breathing, like the
because the whole movie he's been, he gets excited when he goes in for the kill and breathes heavily. So
that goes into the end of the movie. But so that's the movie. So Place in Society, we kind of went over some of its inspirations. Clear influences towards like you said, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, that kind of slasher flick. Like under the horror genre, this specific subgenre, it's like slasher, kind of like the king of, you know what I mean? It's like slasher flick, let's kill some teens. Like,
I mean, and obviously it owes to Psycho, Hitchcock, before, and that's the other thing. I mean, I kind of observed that not as violent as I thought. You don't actually see a lot of the penetrative stabbings or whatever, so that was kind of, I think, probably taken from Psycho. I don't know. I'm trying to think of just 70s horror in general. I mean, it was really diverse. So, I mean, because like, what did I say? Well, you had Texas Chainsaw, and like, was it 74? You had Wes Craven, who went on to do Nightmare on Elm Street with, but originally there was Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes. You had those giallo Italian, Suspiria, stuff like that coming out in the 70s. Exorcist, The Omen was probably following up on The Exorcist, but And I think maybe Michael Myers as a kid killing people is probably taken from The Omen, so those things kind of led into each other. The 70s were just like, this really got me thinking, really diverse as far as Jaws, obviously. People might dismiss it just because we got Friday the 13th and Nightmare on it. Not that, I don't know, whatever, but all the mass killers. I mean, I guess Freddy Krueger's not masked, but his face is melted off and kills teens. And I mean, so people probably got sick of it, but
just a very consistent era of horror, I think.
Yeah, but diverse. I mean, all different kinds. But yeah, the start of slasher with this one, definitely. So that would be its influence, for better or worse. And
a lot of it's like place in society and societal influence, and like influence in the film industry, like ties directly in with, I think, what some of our recommendations would be. Some of my recommendations would be, well, okay, this isn't recommendations. This is just Halloween. I'd recommend this Blu-ray version. It's like that soft cover type.
Yeah, the Blu-ray books, they call them. Yeah,
Blu-ray books. I just love how they feel. Yeah, it's got some cool like stuff to read here, pictures here. I like kind of like mixing it up with some unboxings here, and there's the disc. And then my other recommendations would be just as much John Carpenter as you can. Here's the thing. Great. That's it kind of just speaks for itself. It's a great film. And then like also just check out like we were talking about how like diverse, like how surprisingly diverse like Carpenter is, where like he kind of does like sci-fi that's like not even like horror, like right. Starman and stuff, and then like he can do
Escape from New York is sort of sci-fi, like just I don't know what you call it,
or dystopia like action flick, like he does that too pretty damn well.
Yeah, it's like sort of like the Warriors meet sci-fi. Yeah, so weird.
And then just like fuck around with some Hitchcock. So I have this version that's got Rear Window, The Birds, Psycho, Vertigo, and North by Northwest. What are some of your recommendations?
I didn't really think too much about it. So the only one I could like in the world of Carpenter, obviously The Thing, but even though it's not, it's not a very different style of horror from Halloween, which I mean is interesting. But my other favorite, I think, Carpenter horror movie would be In the Mouth of Madness with Sam Neill and who else? That was probably his next best film. I mean, really fun, really good John Carpenter movie. Probably, of the horror stuff he's done, it'd be my next favorite after, this and The Thing. So.
All right, Dakota, out of 5 stars, what rating will you give John Carpenter's Halloween?
4, I guess. I don't. I said that weird. Like I'm thinking like because there's some bad acting. It's low budget, but it's really does some really creative things. With camera technique. It's not as dumb as you'd think. Like it's logically consistent in a lot of places, surprisingly. So, it's an effective horror movie. So I'd say it's a solid 4.
Yeah, for sure, man. I give it a 4.5. That's probably that probably feels right for me for whichever standard that we like to go by, where sometimes it feels like we should go based on genre, sometimes it's like director or just like overall or by the year. 4.5 feels right.
Yeah, it was so influential
to me.
On the lowest end, it can be quite mediocre. There's shoddy acting, like I said. On the highest end, there's some really impressive technical accomplishments. It was hugely influential, and for a reason. I mean, it's not just to honor it that I say that. I mean, like it's good still, even though it's been emulated to death.
For sure.
The scares still work a lot of the time, and yeah. So I'll stick with a 4 just because it's in between those two. But a very definitely a movie you just kind of have to watch, especially on Halloween. So
of course. And then on that note, I'd like to ask everyone to please hit the like button, subscribe on YouTube, on YouTube, Spotify, wherever other podcasts are found. Switch it up if you're following on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. If you're following us on Spotify, follow us on YouTube. Check out our Patreon. We got one of those going now. And most importantly, though, have a happy Halloween. I'm Nate. The co-host is Dakota. Happy Halloween. Have a great night, everybody.